Get in Jai Bala, who's joining in now from cashkiosk.com. Hi, Jai. Markets are down today. How are you feeling about the markets? You have turned the corner. You believe that we should be buying the dip?
Yeah, the markets haven't done much from last week, Nigel. I anticipate a pullback to come through for the markets, and it's been pretty slow to come through. And even if the markets were to drop as deep as 23,000, it wouldn't change the bullish setup for the higher time frame. In fact, there have been short-term excesses that's been done for the markets, both for the Indian equities and the US equities. So we need a little bit of give back for the market so that there is a pause to refresh. And I'm looking forward for the markets to drop somewhere close to 23,825 on a very excessive case to about 23,030. Though that's not likely to happen. But even if it does happen, it will be a bullish reset for the market.
So don't buy the Nifty right now. Wait till it drops further to 23,800 approximately.
That's right. Buying the dip on weakness is the strategy that you need to adopt. And in fact, I have a couple of cash calls for today. Even that, you need to be in the markets just 10% of your usual allocation and allow the rest of the 90% to be picked up as the markets makes a stair-step decline.
So do you want to tell us the cash calls that you're recommending?
Yeah, one is PCBL, which is related to the graphite sector. It's clocked a significant bottom around 330, and the bounce from there is looking pretty interesting. And it has potential to scale somewhere close to 560 to record highs. Graphite and other stocks were in action yesterday, and this generally joins the leaders a little bit late. So very interesting setup there. And the next one is Premier Explosives. Premier Explosives has got a very significant bottom at around 309, and it's come up from there in a trending fashion. And this again has a potential to retest the record highs registered in 2024. So stop loss at 309, and again look to buy pullbacks in both PCBL and Premier Explosives.
Okay, all right. Jay, also I wanted your view on the Nifty Bank, because that was the driver of the move up, and it's gone through a period of consolidation now. I think a month or so ago, it hit around 56,000. It couldn't conquer that. And a month later, it's still hovering in that band today, 54,500 on the downside to around 56,000. What are the key levels you're looking at on this one?
Yeah, I think I anticipate it to do the same, not much. As long as it stays above 52,063, it still remains bullish, but it still has a pending objective of about 58,500 to 59,000, which is a long-term trend line starting from 2004. So that comes at about 58,500 to 59,000. And the going forward, Nifty Bank may not provide that much action. I think there is an interesting developments that's taking place in the realty sector. Nifty Realty Index as such is clocking a weak inverse head and shoulders pattern. But although that is weak, I don't like inverse head and shoulders pattern where the neckline is sloping up. It tends to be a little weaker and more failure rates. But the stocks within the realty sectors like Oberoi, Godrej, and DLF in particular, they're all looking quite good. They've clocked a good basing pattern. So probably after the pullback, the real estate sector will probably be the next sector to lead and not the banks. So keep your focus on principal stocks within the real estate space. DLF is the leader there. A pullback closer to 700 will be very attractive for DLF.
Jay, do stay on. We need a global setup looking. Is it supportive of a recovery in the market, a bullish trend in the Indian market?
Yeah, thanks for asking this question, Rima. There's been a very significant volatility crash in the US markets. The VIX had spiked to something like 60, and it's come down to about 17. This is pretty similar to what happened during the geopolitical crisis of August 2024. And that 6 months later on led to record highs. So this volatility crash is pretty similar to that. And some of my quant friends tells me that the 6-week decline for the VIX ranks among the highest, and from a 6 months to a 12 months perspective, the US markets have been positive near 100% of the times. So the volatility crash is, it's possibly likely to help the bullish setup for the global markets too. And even for the Indian markets, it came down from a high level, but it spiked back in May, and now it's cooling off. So possibly we could have further gains for the Indian markets due, because there is still a lot of pessimism post the tariff tantrum that happened last month. So yeah, the setup is quite bullish even there.
Okay, all right. Taking that point on board, Jai, and that's good observation as well. On the day the Nifty is down, where the VIX cools off, it's not such a bad outcome from a bullish perspective. But let's focus on the globe and a couple of aspects. Crude, crude. I recall you were talking about higher levels. Irrespective of markets, I don't want to see crude at those levels, Jai, because petrol gets very, very expensive. But at around the $65, $66 per barrel, how much more upside do you see in the near term, say in the next 3 months or so?
Yeah, crude, I think, may have put in a short-term bottom around $55. And if it were to cross 65.12 on NYMEX, I'm anticipating it to rally to something like 78. And generally, stocks tend to perform well in an inflationary environment or mildly inflationary environment. And if you look at something like cocoa futures is once again starting to perk up. And so that could be an inflationary tailwind for stocks and inflationary sensitive macros too. So I'm expecting crude to have already bottomed at 55 and cross 65.12 and touch somewhere close to $78 in the next 3 to 6 months time frame.
Any large cap stocks where you would recommend a trade?
Large cap stocks, yeah. See, basically DLF I like, as I said earlier. Real estate stocks are looking quite good. And I like the basing formation in Anant Raj, Oberoi, and Godrej. And so from a large cap perspective, I'm looking at DLF on pullbacks. And we can also look at stocks within the capital goods space. Some of them overlap within the defense space. So I like ABB from the large cap space, from the mid cap space, in the capital goods space. I like Schaeffler India.
Okay, all right. Jai, thanks a lot for that. We request you to stay on, though. We have a few more queries for you on markets forward. But let's start winding